Get Ripple, the bright new drink with that ring-a-ding flavor. Ripple.
Hi.
It's only an hour into us trying to get set up.
Just an hour. No big deal.
You would think that after how many
Episodes
have we done? What number are we on?
I don't know. I got to go count them because
I'm going to delete the name of every single episode.
I'm not giving you the password.
It is driving me insane. There's absolutely no uniformity or anything. Like, every episode has a weird, different format, and you stopped counting at, like, episode 37, and then you picked it up again for a couple episodes and then stopped counting again.
I just like to switch things up. I get bored really easily.
I hate it so much. Some episodes you just have like a clever name, and then other episodes it's like the topic and location, and none of them at all are consistent.
None. I know. We need to go back and fix them. We need to go back and change the descriptions on them. As soon as we hire our media specialist, it'll be a lot easier.
Yeah. So if you want to do that,
send an email to
what's our email address?
theripplepodcast@gmail.com. Did you get that in stereo?
We won't pay you, but
we'll give you a free sticker.
We'll write you a really nice letter of recommendation.
I'm Rosa.
I'm Angela.
And you're listening to the Ripple Podcast. Tonight, we are drinking.
It's called the Blackout.
It's black whiskey.
Yeah, it's Jameson Black Barrel.
It's RumChata.
Mm-hmm.
And Fireball.
And it tastes like the milk left over in your cereal bowl after a bowl of Cinnamon Toast Crunch.
It's pretty tasty, actually.
It's not bad.
Considering that it's pure alcohol, it's pretty good.
It's okay. It's like not something I would probably order.
And you have to drink it slow. It's not a chugger.
Now that's a challenge.
Anything exciting to share with me?
Oh, we have a gift.
Oh, well, what the heck? Why are you waiting so long to share that?
This is a gift dropped off by listener Sarah.
Sarah with an H or Sarah with an A?
Sarah with an H.
Oh.
Well, and an A, but an H at the end.
That would be the wrong Sarah if you ask my friend Sarah.
Oh, well, until your friend Sarah brings us a gift.
Shut up. Where did they find these?
Judging by the Amazon package.
Oh, is that what it came in?
It came in, yeah.
Oh my gosh, I'm so excited. These are the Yowie Bites that we talked about last week.
Yeah, and you were
my gosh,
telling us that there was like a lawsuit against Cadbury.
Because they're like similar. Oh, and there's little toys inside. Like, that's what I was saying, remember? How there's like toys or something.
Yeah, and when you were describing it, I thought that there was like a toy inside, like inside the chocolate itself. You know, like
not?
an egg. No, it's separate.
Wait, did you open one and have some already?
Maybe.
What the heck?
Well, there's like 10 of them in there.
Oh my gosh.
I had to give it a taste test.
That's so cool. Thank you, Sarah. Listener Sarah. That's awesome. I'm so excited I'm opening one right now.
Do it.
So another Sarah that is like one of our super fans. I'm giving her a little shout out. You guys can go find her and follow her on Instagram. It's the number 1 Sarah with no H, blue, like the color, 1 Sarah blue. And she posts super cute stuff of her house. Like, she's got the most amazing style, and like, if she could come and decorate my life, it would be fantastic.
Oh, I'm already following her.
Oh, she's so cool. Yeah. And she's a cattle dog fan, so
we that's definitely why I'm following her.
So you're right. I thought the toy was inside the candy.
No, first things first, they're way smaller than Cadbury eggs.
But these are the bites.
Oh.
These are Yowie Bites.
All right.
So I'm wondering because I didn't notice the bites before. Here, I'm going to open this and see what's inside. What did you get? What toy did you get?
I don't know. I threw the toy away. I didn't even open it.
You have a niece?
Yeah, but okay. And nothing against Sarah, but like, why do they make these? you know?
Well, you're
Like, it just seems like such a waste. Like, your kid's going to play with that for, like, 2 minutes and throw it away.
or
You know?
well, it's supposed to teach you about endangered animals. So this is the North American river otter, or also known as the huge water weasel. And it gives you, like, information about the animal. And there's, like, a puzzle piece. And I don't know what the puzzle piece goes to.
I think you have to buy more Yowie Bites to get all of the puzzle pieces.
And there's the little weasel.
Kind of ironic, considering that all of that plastic ends up in the ocean.
It is very not...
That thing is hideous. That looks like a dinosaur.
No, I thought it was a dinosaur when I first opened it.
It's a river otter?
Or a weasel.
Oh.
Well, it's called a huge water weasel or a North American river otter.
Water weasel.
River otter. Yeah, weird. Well, that was super sweet, and we like chocolate, Sarah, so...
Yeah, thanks. Sorry
You're
I
amazing.
shit all over your gift. If you want to send us a gift, you can send it to our P.O. box that Rosa will now give you the address to.
Look in the show notes, because I don't have that memorized.
Oh, okay.
Show note it. Or send us an email at theripplepodcast@gmail.com, and we'll get that for you.
I promise I'll be nicer about your gift.
All right, are you ready to tell me a story? Do you have anything else to tell me? Because I'm super excited about your story because I know it's a listener suggestion. And I hate being so left in the dark when I don't even know the area or the topic. All I know it's listener suggestion, and I'm super curious.
You sound like you're going to pass out.
Why?
Take a breath. You're like rushing through that. That's funny. Okay. So this is a listener suggestion. And I think I told you last week that it's kind of a medical oddity.
Okay.
But really, this is, I don't know. I feel like we need to expand upon our medical oddity topic because this is psychological.
Okay.
So it's, I don't know.
I'm more confused.
Yeah, you're going to be. But it also falls into true crime.
Oh, fun. I like it when they hit multiple topics.
Yeah. So there's a lot of stuff going on. It does take place in California. And I know we've talked about California like 4 times now. But it's a big place. And a lot of weird shit happens in California.
So I got another listener suggestion.
And it's another California story?
It's not only a California story, but it's like a in our backyard California story.
Oh.
Yeah. Speaking of in your backyard.
Yeah.
We are not, by the way, we will not be talking about the Kristen Smart, or we'll talk about it, but we will not be rehashing the Kristen Smart case. We're not going to do it. We're not going to do an episode on it. We are super invested in the case. We've been following every Instagram, TikTok, everything about it, but everything that could be said has been said and said way better than we could ever say it.
We couldn't do justice. And for those of you who don't know, Rosa's talking about the podcast called Your Own Backyard, which I'm sure if you've heard of our stupid little podcast, you already know about their really good, amazing podcast. But yeah, so there's been a lot of discoveries and
because of that podcast.
Right.
So if you haven't heard it, you should go listen to it because it's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
I'm actually re-listening to it again because I haven't listened to it for a couple years.
I am too, since it came out. It was almost 2 years ago, I think. But yeah, big things happening and big things happening because of the podcast.
Yeah. Arrests have been made. Charges have been filed.
And hopefully body will be discovered.
Absolutely. Hopefully. But so that's the other case. Other story suggestion someone gave me is something that takes place in Ventura County.
Oh, nice.
So
okay.
We'll see if I do it now or if I hold it off for a little while.
All right.
Go.
Okay. So my case, first I need to give you my sources. So
Go.
encyclopedia.com, Once Upon a Murder.
Wait. Stop. Hold the phone. What was the first one you said?
Encyclopedia.com.
Did you say .com?
Yeah, because
Did you say .com?
I did. Because if I just said encyclopedia, that could mean a lot of things. So encyclopedia.com is a specific website.
I think you need to take a shot for that.
I don't think so, because if
Angela
you say
always gives me shit for saying .com, .net, .org.
Well, this is a very specific instance where the .com is necessary.
All right, continue.
All right, fine. I'll take a drink. Okay, the other 2 sources I have here. are the podcast Once Upon a Murder, episode 122. Have you ever listened to it?
Once Upon a Murder? No.
It's really good.
I've heard of it.
It's another podcast that's way better than ours and has like advertisements and Patreon sponsors and
merch
and listeners and all of those things. And finally, the YouTube channel Today I Found Out.
Oh my gosh. That reminds me. Sorry, I'm totally interrupting again. But I just started, I'm like 20 minutes into this Netflix documentary called Why Did You Kill Me?
Oh, I've heard of that.
I just started it.
It's like brand new, right?
It's number 2 on the charts today. So good so far.
How far are you in?
20 minutes.
Oh, did you just say that?
Yes.
Okay. Sorry.
But it's okay. But it takes place in like the era of MySpace, which brings back like a lot of memories and stuff. So I think you should try to watch it this weekend, and then we can talk about it next week because I'm going to try to finish it.
Did you have a MySpace profile?
Oh, absolutely I did.
What was your song? I don't think you were ever friends with me on MySpace.
Oh, I'm sure I wasn't. I did not want my little sister seeing what was on my MySpace. Absolutely, I did not.
We've never discussed this before.
Mine is still on there.
Oh, I had mine deleted.
Did you?
And
mine is still active if you go out and find it.
Okay, I will.
You can friend request me.
No, I can't because I don't have one anymore.
Oh.
But I'll go look at yours. And I tried to delete mine for years and years, but I couldn't because Eric, our brother, I guess I like left it on one time and he went and changed the language to like German or something.
That's fantastic.
So every time I logged in, all like the entire format of the website was in German.
You had no idea.
And I had no idea how to like navigate it and find a way to like either change it back or delete it. So I think I ended up having to like email MySpace. What's his name? What was your first? Tom. I had to email Tom himself and have my MySpace deleted. But yeah.
Good old MySpace.
Do you remember your song?
No, I don't. I think I got out of it before
the music.
All of that happened. Yeah, I wasn't into like.
Wait, you just said it's still up.
It is.
Oh, you just.
I stopped using it.
Oh,
like I didn't do like the sparkly fonts.
I did all of that stuff.
I did. I had my. I think I had my top 8. But yeah, I think I moved over to Facebook pretty early on.
Mm. Oh well,
those are the days.
You can go update it now.
There's some very interesting pictures on that MySpace.
How do you live like this
with those pictures out there?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't care.
Yeah, but other people do.
If they're seriously gonna go and search out my pictures,
you were a teacher at a freaking Christian school.
I also had a license plate frame that said you should see me topless when I drove to work. So,
is that why you don't work there anymore?
It's possible. It's quite possible.
All right.
Tell me your story.
Okay. We're going back to January of 1989.
Wait, I had a convertible also when I had that license plate frame. Let's backtrack. It makes it way better that way.
That's important information. January 1989. I was a year old. And Eileen Franklin was a 29-year-old mother, and she was hanging out at her house playing with her young daughter, Jessica. And when her kid turned towards her, she, I guess, was like kneeling on the ground, and she like looked up at her. All of a sudden, she had this flashback, and she had this memory of another little girl. And
this is the mom having the flashback?
Yes.
Okay. Just wanted to clarify.
And that flashback was of a little girl who she knew when she was 8 years old, her best friend, Susan Nason. And Elaine and Susan bonded when they were just in elementary school. I don't know. What grade are you in when you're 8?
Second, third, maybe.
Okay. And they were like the two little redheads of the class, and they kind of stuck together because all the other kids kind of like teased them for having red hair and freckles and no souls or whatever. Wait, no.
Little ginger snaps.
Little ginger snaps. I take that back because obviously something horrible happens to one of them, and I don't really want to talk bad about him.
So is this like a deja vu type thing, or is it just a for real memory?
Well, okay, the way that I kind of thought of it was like, have you ever been somewhere where you like heard a song or you smelled a smell or you saw
and it
a
puts
thing
you back in that time?
Yeah, all of a sudden, like it just, you have like a little memory triggered.
Yes. Okay, that I understand. I wasn't sure if this was like a, when you've been like, oh, have that deja vu feeling, like, oh, I've totally been here before. I've totally done this before, but you don't know why. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
So it wasn't like that. This is like a legit memory.
Maybe. I don't know. I'll tell you more about it and you can kind of interpret it the way you want. But like the way I thought of it, and it kind of, so on the Once Upon a Murder episode, she kind of described it as like, okay, so her daughter looks a lot like her. And she looked a lot like Susan. Okay. So she kind of like, daughter being around the same age, she looked at her and she like thought of Susan.
You look like Susan.
Exactly.
Got it.
So this memory was of her childhood best friend, little 8-year-old Susan Nason, who went by Susie. And Elaine and Susie bonded over being the only 2 little redhead girls in their class. And the other kids kind of made fun of them because they had like freckles and red hair and
little ginger snaps.
Little ginger snaps they were. And she remembers that one of the last times that she saw Susan was just before Susan's 9th birthday. And they had these great plans to go have like a little roller skating birthday party that weekend. Mm-hmm. But that party never actually happened.
Oh, okay.
No, it didn't happen. And that was because on the way home from school that day, little Susie noticed that another girl had forgotten her gym shoes. And she like left them there on the coat rack. What's wrong?
What year is this?
This is a 1989.
Huh. Okay. I just don't remember changing into gym shoes at that age.
Oh, no. Okay. So the memory happened in 1989, but this was in the 60s when they were that old because she's in her 20s.
Oh. So those kids had to change out.
Yeah,
completely.
Because I think like those kids back in the day like wore nice clothes to school, like actual like buckle shoes and dresses and stuff.
Okay, that makes more sense.
Yeah. So she's going to be a nice little kid and she was going to drop off the shoes to her friend. So she tells her mom, like I guess she goes home first and I'm assuming they're all walking. She tells her mom, "Hey, I'm going to go take these shoes to my these shoes to my friend's house." And her mom's like, "Okay." So she goes down the street to drop off the shoes. But Susan, little Susie, never returned.
Mm-hmm. It's kind of where I thought this might be going.
Yeah, because otherwise it would be just a story about some gym shoes. And a few months later, her body was found dumped in a ditch off the side of a turnout on a rural road. Mm-hmm. But it wasn't until she looked into her daughter's eyes that suddenly Elaine had this memory of Susie that she previously blocked out. She had this flooding of graphic, gruesome detail.
What?
She saw her little friend Susie kneeling down, just like her daughter was, looking up at her.
Uh-huh.
And she saw her hands fly over her head. And the next thing she knew, she was being bludgeoned with a rock.
What?
Uh-huh.
So does she think that, like, Susie's soul is in her daughter?
That is a great hypothesis, but no.
Oh.
I mean, I really like where you're going with that story. That sounds really good.
Okay.
No. She believes that she was there and she witnessed little Susie getting murdered.
Really? And
yeah.
she just blocked it out?
Yeah.
Oh.
So she was just like completely overwhelmed with this recollection all of a sudden of what she believed to be a repressed memory.
Okay.
So Elaine, she started to like call her friends and her family, and then she told her husband like, "Oh my gosh, I remember this. I can see it. I can see her
sickening sounding.
Put her hands up and try to block this thing that hit her in the head and killed her." So of course her husband's like, "Okay, you need to call the police."
Yeah.
So she calls the police. And at first she wants to stay completely anonymous, and she's kind of having her husband call for her and like tell them what happened. And she just starts describing this detail of her best friend who she believed was raped and then murdered 20 years prior. She remembered looking at her face as her killer grabbed a nearby rock, and somehow Susie had raised her hands above her head in self-defense, and the rock hit her hand before it hit her head. So she's remembering like specific details.
Was Susie's killer ever found?
No.
Oh, shit. Okay.
So police took down all of her information, and then, of course, they ask that $1 million question, do you remember who killed her?
Right.
And she says that she does.
Whoa, she does.
But she won't tell them
What?
until they can assure her that he will be arrested. Because now she's fearful that if he finds out that she's telling this information, he's going to come after her.
Or her daughter.
Or her daughter. So once they assure her that they have enough information that they can go and make this arrest, she tells them, actually, she has her husband tell them, it was George Franklin, her father.
No.
So,
What?
uh-huh.
I mean, I guess that kind of would make sense. Like, why was she there? Like, how was she able to witness this?
Right.
Because if you're out just like at a park or whatever, like, you would think the killer would kill her too. Okay, keep going.
Okay.
Oh my gosh.
So on November 29th, 1989, George Franklin was arrested for the murder of Susan Nason.
So they did take her seriously.
They did take her
That's great.
seriously.
Good.
At his home, where he is arrested, they found a number of pornographic magazines and pictures that included photos of young children.
Gross. What was her relationship with her dad? Did they have a relationship?
Yeah, and it's complicated, and I'll get a little bit more into that. So 20 years earlier, in September of 1969, when Susie disappeared from her hometown, I don't think I mentioned it before, but it's Foster City, California.
Okay.
Do you know Foster City?
No, but you said California. So.
Yeah. So Foster City, I'm not familiar with it, but apparently it's between San Francisco and San Jose.
Okay, so north.
Yeah. So good job.
I know that's a good guess, huh? Really good guess. As soon as I said it, I was like, oh, shit.
Okay, so her body was discovered outdoors a few months later, and it did, in fact, show signs of a violent death, including a crushed skull and a smashed ring that indicated that she was trying to protect herself from the fatal blow. So, like, she put her hand up, the rock hit her hand, and crushed the ring.
Girl was wearing a ring?
Yeah, little kids wear little, I mean, you didn't buy little rings from the little quarter
25
machine.
cent.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah. Okay.
I could see that. A blood-stained rock was found nearby, and shortly after this discovery, police questioned a ton of people from the community because, like, obviously.
So he didn't try to hide her body? She was just, like, left there where he killed her?
Yeah, but it was out in, like, a secluded area. And, well, I cut a lot of this out because it's a super, super long story and there's a ton of detail to it. But the way Elaine remembered it is he picked her up.
Picked up
Susie.
okay.
So Elaine and her dad in the car.
Okay.
They're driving through town. Elaine says, oh, look, there's my friend Susie. Can we give her a ride?
Mm-hmm.
So he picks her up. And then he drives them out to, like, a secluded area, like a forested sort of area. And that's where she remembers her being raped and then murdered. And then once he takes her body and kind of dumps her, I guess he had a Volkswagen bus.
Mm-hmm.
Or like van sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's called a bus, but they call it a van in the
Right.
podcast. And it had a mattress in the back. And they had pulled the mattress out and placed it on top of her. So that's how she was hidden. And I guess this was an area that was kind of known to have a bunch of trash. And
so
like
they
a dumping
see a mattress
area.
rather than a body.
Right. But there's a ton of other trash that's already there. So it's kind of like, that's just a place where
and
people...
that's actually where he killed her.
Right.
Because they said the bloody rock was there.
Right.
Huh. Okay.
Okay. So, of course, police, like I said, they questioned members of the community that may have seen Susie and possibly picked her up. Because remember, she was just in her own neighborhood when she disappeared.
Mm-hmm.
And one of those people...
Oh, right, because she was returning the shoes.
Right.
Walking
yeah.
there. Uh-huh.
And it sounds like it's like a fairly small town. I mean, these kids are walking home from school, it sounds like, and it can't be that far, I wouldn't think.
A little residential area.
Okay, we had to stop for just a second because apparently there's squeaky toy sounds getting picked up by the microphones in the background.
If you heard some weird little animal squeak sounds, we weren't committing any sacrifices or anything.
We needed something to lift the mood a little bit.
Yeah.
So we had some puppy squeaky toy sounds in the background. Okay, so as I was saying, police were questioning people in the community, and one of the people that they did question was George Franklin. But he wasn't considered a suspect because, among other things, he said that he was home at the time of the disappearance.
Mm-hmm.
Now,
don't they always?
Right, and aren't they always pillars of the community?
Always.
Because George himself was a firefighter for the area.
Uh-huh.
He was also a Marine Corps veteran. And when he wasn't at the fire station, he was working a side job painting houses on his days off to provide additional income for his wife and kids.
What a great human.
Right. And he invested, he saved up his money and invested in several rental properties. So he had that going for him too. So he was a landlord.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and also he was a total scumbag.
Yeah. Sounds like it. Huge.
Well, you haven't even heard what he did yet.
Oh, well, he has kitty porn and he killed and raped a little girl. So look, can we start there?
Well, I didn't say that.
Oh, okay.
But I will say that he was known by the other firefighters to regularly cheat on his wife.
Okay. But,
Okay, well, how about this? After he would sleep with these women, he would go back to the station and slut shame them.
oh, okay, that's not very nice.
Uh-huh.
Not at all.
Oh, and did I mention that he was also verbally and physically abusive towards his wife and children?
Oh, not nice.
Yeah. So things weren't quite as they appeared. There's a lot of things happening behind closed doors that maybe the rest of the community didn't know what was going on, because to everybody else, he's this hero, you
Sure.
know?
Marine.
Hero of the community.
Yeah.
Veteran.
Firefighter.
Yeah.
House painter. Yeah.
So after about 10 years after Susie's disappearance, George's wife, Leah, finally was able to file for divorce.
Okay. Was she afraid to do that beforehand?
Possibly. I mean, who knows?
Uh-huh.
You never really know with those situations, and there's not a lot of detail to it, but she did file for divorce and leave him after he was very abusive to their entire family. And during this time of the divorce, she actually questioned if he had anything to do with Susie's murder.
Oh, she knew something for sure then. I mean,
Well-
not specifically, maybe not details for sure, but if you suspect that about your own husband.
What does that say about him?
Uh-huh.
Yeah. If you if there's just a tiny little morsel of your mind
That
that
heads
thinks
that way.
that maybe he could have done this.
There's a reason. There's a reason for those thoughts.
Yeah. So now we're going to flash back forward 20 years after Susie's death, when Elaine claimed that she remembered being with her father and Susie on the day of the murder. She said that she watched her father rape her and then kill her.
That's horrible.
After that, he had threatened to kill her
Mm-hmm.
if she said anything.
Okay.
Quote, he said if I told anyone, she testified, that he would have me killed too, and I believed him.
Yeah, of course.
Mm-hmm. And because of the shock that she had witnessed, the shock of everything that she had witnessed, she immediately, according to a psychiatrist who testified, had repressed the memories of that day for years. And she even remembers that after they were driving away, she told her dad to stop because they couldn't leave Susie behind. She would be too cold and scared.
Oh, that's horrible.
So that's kind of the initial sign that she's hiding this away. Even though she just witnessed, she knows she's dead.
Mm-hmm.
But even driving away, she's already making herself believe that it didn't happen.
Oh, that's so sad.
Yeah, it's pretty awful. So the trial opened in late October of 1990, and Elaine, of course, was the star witness. The prosecution's case revolved almost entirely on her account of the murder, and a leading psychiatrist and psychologist testified on behalf of both the prosecution and the defense. So the
prosecution.
So the prosecution witnesses explained the theory of the repression of traumatic memories.
Is this a common thing that happens?
Repression of traumatic memories?
Uh-huh.
I don't know. I don't know what would make you repress something or what would make something be burned into your mind forever.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe it depends on the age. Maybe it's just like circumstance. Maybe it's the person. But I'll have a little bit more information on that in my Ripple after this. But it seemed like during the trial they had experts from both sides, like experts saying like, well, clearly this is a very traumatic instance and she held on to it for all of these years because she wasn't strong enough to deal with it at the moment. And then, of course, you have the other side saying like,
this is bullshit.
Right. Like all she has is a story. I mean, she was also came from an abusive house and he beat the crap out of her and maybe she wants revenge and she's just making up this entire story.
Which, I mean, I guess because I just don't understand how someone could repress a memory. I mean, obviously I totally believe her, but that seems so weird to me. I guess because it was so traumatic. You just want it out of your head. I don't know. I mean, there's things I wish I didn't remember. But that's so interesting to me.
Yeah. And I can't imagine being on that jury because it would be really, really hard to make a decision. But let me tell you a little bit more about how the trial went.
Okay.
So the defense argued that the accuracy of memories such as this were just unreliable. They argued that Elaine testified on facts that had been reported in papers and on local news. And she could have known what had happened and either thought that she was an eyewitness but never was.
Right.
Or she's just lying. Well, the trial judge, Thomas McGinn Smith, prevented the defense from introducing the newspapers and clips of like the news stories on TV. So they didn't really have an opportunity to compare Elaine's story to those news articles. However, he did allow some other things that were kind of interesting. And it's what a lot of people would just call circumstantial evidence. So after her father was arrested, Elaine actually went to visit him in jail. And she wanted to talk to him. And she wanted him to just tell her the truth. And just be like, you know what, just come clean. I know you did this. Just tell me.
Right.
So instead of answering her, he said nothing. And he pointed to a sign that warned inmates that officials will be monitoring all conversations.
So he was afraid to speak?
So he didn't want to say. He didn't want to admit to it. Because he knew that it would be used against him.
Right.
Okay, so George's silence, according to the prosecutor, was, quote, worth its weight in gold and was an implication of
his guilt. Just because he was silent?
Just because he was silent. What do you think about that?
I don't really like that. I mean, he... What?
I don't really like that.
I don't know. I don't think... I mean, I feel like he should have said something. I mean, I guess I can't force you to speak.
Right.
But just because he didn't speak doesn't mean he's guilty.
Yeah. Think about that for a little while. Holy shit. I swear to God, this is like the 12th time we've been interrupted tonight. We have three dogs in here.
And another human.
Okay, let's just keep going.
Okay, go.
And we're back.
I'm going to have to do some heavy editing on this episode.
That's all right. No one listens anyway. So on November 30th of 1990, the jury found George Franklin
guilty.
guilty.
Good.
You're right. Of Susie's murder. Although the prosecution had not produced any physical evidence because, I mean, it had been a couple months and they didn't really have anything left. Well,
Wait, a couple months?
no, backtrack. It was a couple months after they found her and then 20 years until they got to the trial.
Okay.
So
there was no DNA that they could trace
this is
him
back in
with?
the 60s. So if you take into consideration that she had decomposed for a couple months and then it was the 60s.
So they didn't find her body for a couple months?
Right.
Oh. And then in the 90s is when the trial happened, right?
Uh-huh.
So 30 years.
20 years.
60, 70, 80, 90. 30.
Well, 69.
Oh.
Whatever. It's fine. 20, 30, you know.
Not enough DNA.
No DNAs is the bottom line.
Okay.
All right. So the conviction rested almost entirely on Elaine's testimony. And on January 29th, 1991, Judge Smith sentenced George to life imprisonment.
What did the rest of his family have to say? Like the wife or ex-wife
They all weren't big fans
of him?
So obviously
he was an ass.
his ex-wife, like, she suffered years of abuse, and she even thought that he was capable of doing that, like we mentioned earlier. So I don't think she was much of a fan. And then he had other kids as well, one of which agreed that, like, yeah, he probably did it, and she even thought that back when it happened. And then Elaine was actually the favorite of the kids, and it may have been because he could trust her with things. So there's that too. If you listen to the Once Upon a Murder, it's a really long podcast, and it goes into so much detail about their relationships and how just dysfunctional that entire family was, basically because of him.
Yeah, sounds like it.
But that's not where the story ends.
Okay.
So Elaine began to have more memories come back to her,
Oh.
and more memories that involved the rape and murder of other victims.
No way.
Yep. Susie, she remembered, was only one of several victims.
So wait, he just takes his daughter to murder and rape people?
Sounds weird, doesn't it?
Uh-huh.
And she tells the detectives about these other unsolved murders.
How are these coming back to her? Just because of the one kind of opened the floodgates?
Apparently. And the detectives go to George in prison, and they collect DNA from him. They take blood samples and hair samples, and they compare them to the DNA on the victims. Any guesses?
No. I mean, I guess, did he do it? Did he do more? Who else did he kill? John Benet Ramsey.
It wasn't a match.
It was not.
Was not a match.
So she is remembering these stuff incorrectly, or setting her dad up.
I don't know.
Oh gosh.
And that's when Elaine's story starts to seem like it has some holes in it. So she had told the police that the memory came back to her when she was looking into her daughter's eyes, right?
Right, when her daughter was kneeling down.
But when detectives started asking more about her friends and family who she had also talked to, they found out that she told her husband that it came to her in a dream.
No.
And she told her brother that it came to her after being under hypnosis. And that's a problem, because if you're going to testify in a trial,
You have to have the story straight.
the jury needs to be aware if you were under hypnosis. So then she tells the police, well, I actually lied to my brother because that's the only way he would believe me. But still, her story isn't adding up. So the federal court reevaluated the trial, and the entire subject of repressed memory needed to be
Thrown out?
or disclosed, like how this happened. So they go back and they start looking through all of the trial and finding other little things. Like, remember how I said about how George didn't want to talk and he pointed to the sign that says, well, that's his right. And that can't be used against him. So if you choose to remain silent, that cannot be used against you. So that was a violation of his right. And then they find other things about how Judge Smith didn't allow the defense to bring in those newspapers and didn't allow them to play those news clips where all of her story came from. Holes in the trial.
Wow.
So then, in 1995, a federal appeals court overturned the conviction. And after being imprisoned for 6 years, George Franklin was released from jail.
And declared innocent?
Well, you can't declare somebody innocent, but not guilty. So based on their like their entire case revolved around her memory.
That was made up?
I don't think it was made up. I think that she honestly believed it.
But why? Why did she believe that?
I don't know. Maybe trauma. Maybe she was going through a divorce at the time, so she had that stress. She had the traumatic experience of losing her best friend to rape and murder when she was 8 years old. And then she had this not lifelong, but like her entire childhood was super abusive. So I mean, she could have gone through some sort of therapy that convinced her of these things, and that's just like the way her brain connected these memories. Like that was how they made sense of everything that she went through.
But so your dad's a total asshole. He verbally and physically abuses you and your family. But to say that he raped and murdered your best friend as a child, I mean, that's pretty extreme.
But I don't think she's lying. I really don't.
You think she totally believed it?
I think it either really happened and she really she's telling the truth and that's what happened, or she's telling her truth of what she believes.
But then she believes that he killed other people as well.
Yeah. I think that she really believes it. I really do. Crazy, huh?
That's really sad that she has those thoughts.
Yeah. It's also really sad that a little girl who was only 8 years old right before her 9th birthday was kidnapped, raped, and murdered.
Absolutely.
So I don't know. The other thing that kind of threw me for a loop is that when they arrested him, they found child porn.
Well, that's what yeah.
So, I don't know. Do you only serve 6 years for child? I don't know.
Ugh.
That seems weird. I feel like he should not be on the streets, regardless of whether or not he actually killed this girl.
No. He should be put away for a long time for that alone. Yeah.
So, now that you heard the story, do you believe in repressed memories?
I don't know. Because that's kind of what I was saying before. If I had something horrible happen or I witnessed something just super atrocious, I think. But then, I mean, she was threatened. She says she was threatened, right? That he would kill her if she told. I still think I would tell. I don't know. I feel like I would be reliving that moment constantly.
Yeah, I agree. I think that if I went through a super traumatic event like that, anything that's relatively traumatic to my life, I feel like I remember more, and I remember more specific detail than the average thing in life. Obviously more detail than just going to work on a Monday
Tuesday.
Or whatever. So, and I think that that's the common response is that when something really traumatic happens that gives you an emotional response, you tend to remember it.
And I think other things trigger those emotional responses. Like you were saying before, sounds, smells.
Exactly.
A certain song on the radio, maybe that was happening, those things will trigger those memories.
For sure. So let me get into my ripple. And, this is kind of the psychologist's belief, the studies that are revolve around suppressed memories. I said that really weird, but let me try again. And this is kind of some of the science behind repressed memories and what experts believe it and what experts don't believe. So according to a UC Irvine study that was conducted in 2013, 60 to 90% of clinical psychologists believe that repressed memories exist, but they believe that they are very rare. 70% of research psychologists believe that there's no such thing as repressed memories. So what do you think about that?
So 70% believe they don't exist?
Right. So 70% of research psychologists don't believe they exist because there's no like science behind backing it. But 60 to 90% of clinical psychologists believe that they do based on like anecdotal evidence.
Well, and that's kind of hard to say because unless something triggers that memory, how do you even know?
Like, how do you even study it? Okay, so according to the research psychologists, this is a quote from Chris French from the University of London. There is no convincing evidence to support the existence of psychoanalytical concept of repression. That's a really big word, and I'm not quite sure what it means. But he's saying that there isn't evidence, despite there being a wide acceptance of the concept.
So there's no evidence that repressed memories actually occur.
Right. And clinicians are more apt to trust clinical experience, while researchers tend to trust the experimental research.
Just tell me if they're real or not. That's all I need to know.
Nobody knows. Nobody knows. You can't trust anybody. You can't even trust your own brain. Nobody knows what's really happening. It's all a simulation, and nothing really matters because you don't actually have control of any of your life choices because we're all just a series of chemical reactions.
I don't like all of those words.
Okay. So traumatic events seem to be the ones that you remember the most, and that's typically because they do trigger a strong emotional response, which is what we just said.
Okay.
However, a child could experience an event that would typically be considered traumatic, but since they don't understand the full severity of that experience, they don't have that association of a strong emotional response. So this example would be like if a young kid were touched inappropriately, but that kid didn't realize that that touching was inappropriate, they might not remember it because to them it was just like, you know, they didn't really know what was going on.
But they would remember that they were touched.
Not necessarily like way later on down the road. They might not remember that being anything than like, oh, it was a, you know, tickle party. I mean, of course, it's depends on the kid and the severity and everything.
Yeah.
But or say like, I don't know, like the World Trade Centers. If you're a little kid and you don't know what's going on and you see that happen, but to you, that doesn't mean anything.
Mm-hmm.
Like they might not have that
response,
that deep memory where most of us our age, like we remember exactly where we were when we found out.
Right.
So for whatever reason, like in the 80s and 90s, the idea of repressed memories in like therapy, for whatever reason, became like a hot topic.
I remember like, I don't know if it was on TV shows or trials or whatever, but they would like have someone and they'd say certain things and these, people on the couch would go, oh my God, I remember where I left the treasure, or, like these memories would come flooding back to them because of some key words that triggered their memory.
Oh yeah, it was like super popular. Like it was like on Oprah and all those daytime talk shows where they would have like an expert come in and they were going to bring out these memories, and it was going to
breakthrough was going to happen.
And that was what was causing all of your depression and anxiety. And once you got it out, like everything would be better.
Like a rebirthing.
Turns out what the psychologists didn't realize at the time is that type of therapy that was supposedly uncovering these repressed memories was pretty much a recipe to get people to create false memories, known as false memory syndrome. So according to Elizabeth Loftus, who for whatever reason, I don't have her title, but I'm sure she's like a big time doctor of knowing all kinds of things and how they work in your brain.
Sounds like a good title.
She conducted this experiment with a bunch of participants. I assume that they were probably like high school, college age.
Okay.
And she prepared these booklets for each participant containing 1-paragraph stories about 3 different events that had actually happened to the participant and one that had not. So they constructed these false events using information about a plausible shopping trip provided by a relative. And they also verified, so I'm assuming that it's like we talked to this participant's parents and verified that this didn't accidentally happen, you know, like it wasn't something that really did happen in their life and it was just coincidence. So they have this story about a shopping trip, and in the shopping trip, the participant was probably about the age of 5, and in this scenario, they got lost for an extended period of time. They started crying, they found aid from an elderly woman who comforted them, and then finally they had a reunion with their family and they were happy again.
Okay.
So,
I had that happen to me.
oh,
This
well,
is my story.
or is it? Because after asking each participant about the event, about 1/3 of the subjects remembered this event that never actually happened.
Mine happened at Chuck E. Cheese.
Or did it?
Maybe it was just a story someone planted in my
Or
head.
did it? So to further test, the research group asked the subjects about that event. And they're like, well, what happened? You know, tell me about it. And they started just creating these details that, according to their family, never actually happened.
Huh.
But in order to kind of like further verify, they conducted the experiment again. But like you said, okay, when you were little, you got lost and you were reunited. So then they made it like a little bit more extreme. And for the next events, they put in a story about spilling a punch bowl at a wedding. So that would be like more severe and like, oh no, you actually, like less plausible for it to coincidentally just happen.
I never spilled a punch bowl at a wedding.
Or being in the hospital as a kid. So they, you know, they made the memories, these false memories, more out of the norm.
Right.
Still had the same results.
Oh, weird.
So they then started looking into a technique that was being used again in the 80s and 90s called imagination therapy. And this is kind of what you were describing a second ago, where the patients are asked to remember a traumatic event and just start talking about it. And don't worry if all of your facts are straight. Just remember this event and tell me everything that you remember about it. Tell me about the time of day. Tell me about the weather. Tell me about the people around you. What are you wearing? And the more that they did this and the more that they continued to imagine it and repeat this process again and again, the more confident that they would become about this memory that never actually happened.
Because that's what they do like on CSI and stuff. Okay, tell me what you were hearing. What was the person wearing? That's what I feel like they do on those shows.
So what you're saying is that interrogations plant false memories.
I mean, at least on CSI.
I mean, maybe. I don't know. According to this, like it seems like it could be fairly likely if you're asking somebody to repeat a story again and again and again. And according to this,
you're going to add your own details into it because you want the story to
make sense.
Right.
Make it make sense. Your brain wants it to make sense.
Fill in the gaps.
Right. So other studies showed that the more frequently subjects were asked to imagine the event, the more likely they were to believe that it actually happened, which is what I just said. And this was a study that was conducted at Colton University, and they were essentially implanting memories. And the more they did this, the more involved they got with this. I mean, this study must have taken freaking forever. But they actually convinced people that they had memories that occurred directly after being born. Like when your freaking brain isn't even like
I can't
developed.
even remember the name of my elementary school teachers.
Me neither. But they like remembered being birthed.
I don't want to remember that. That is not a memory I want.
Oh man! And this whole process is called guided mnemonic reconstruction. I think either that or my computer auto-corrected to that. But yeah, so they started remembering specific details that were just completely made up, and they were confident about it. So I have another quote from Elizabeth Loftus that's going to kind of wrap this up for us. And it is, research is beginning to give us an understanding of how false memories are complete emotional and self-participatory experiences. created in adults. First, there are social demands on individuals to remember. For instance, researchers exert some pressure on participants in a study to come up with memories. Second, memory construction by imagining events can be explicitly encouraged when people are having trouble remembering. And finally, individuals can be encouraged to think about whether their constructions are real or not. Creation of false memories are more likely to occur when these external factors are present, whether in a therapeutic setting or during everyday activities. Did that make any sense at all?
It did, but it also made me think of another question for you.
Okay.
So the girl that accused her dad, did she get in trouble for falsifying information? Because if she fully believes it, she obviously wasn't doing it intentionally.
Right.
But she was still, I don't know if they proved that she was lying under oath.
I don't know. That's a really good question. And I should have looked into that because I didn't really think about it until now because, yes, I think that she truly believed what she was saying and she wasn't intentionally lying. But at the same time, it seemed like she was neglecting or withholding the information that these repressed memories came to her under hypnosis in like a therapeutic setting.
Was she withholding that information or was the lawyer?
Oh, that's a really good point. Yeah, that's a really good point. Probably the lawyer, I would think.
So, I don't know. But she did lie to her brother.
Yeah, but that's not illegal. I lie to my brother all the time.
I don't. I never lie to my brother. Ever. He's in here with us right now staring at us.
Yeah, no, I didn't hear of her being charged with anything.
I would think you would have.
Yeah, I think that information probably would have come up, but I don't know. The one take-home message is this. Just because someone tells you something with a lot of confidence and detail and emotion doesn't mean that it actually happened. You need independent corroboration to know whether you're dealing with an authentic memory or something that is the product of some other process. Many people believe that memory is like a recording device. You record the information, then you call it back later and play it when you want to hear the answer to the questions or identify images. But decades of work in psychology have shown that this simply isn't true. Our memories are constructive. They're reconstructive. Memory works a little bit more like Wikipedia. You can go in there and change it, and so can other people.
Huh. I like that description.
Isn't that crazy?
That's a cool example. Unless you, can make your own Wikipedia page.
Well, I think you can. And I think that should be our takeaway message to all of our listeners is that
the Ripple
you
podcast
can change your
Wikipedia page.
Oh, yeah, that too. We should actually attempt to do that first, but you can change your memory. You can make things happy again. You can stand in front of a mirror and say, I am
awesome.
I am rich.
I am smart.
I am that bitch.
I don't think that works.
I think it does. Why not? If you say it enough, maybe it will. Try it.
But, okay, you can believe it, but no one else is going to.
Who cares? I do what I want.
I do what I want. All right. Do you want my last thought in a shot?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to ask you a few different things.
Oh, God.
And I want to see if these have left memorable times in your brain.
Okay.
Okay. So these are there's 30 of them, but I'm not giving you all 30. I just randomly picked a few.
Okay.
So let's see. Do you remember opening your first paycheck?
Yes.
Do you?
Yeah.
Where were you working?
Target.
Okay. I don't remember that.
Yeah, because I saw all the taxes pulled out of it.
You're what the hell? Why am I even working?
Yeah.
Okay. Bearing witness to a turning point in history.
Yes.
Okay. Twin Towers?
Yeah.
Mine too.
That's also because we just talked about it.
Well, yeah. How about driving alone for the very first time?
No.
Me either. Don't remember the first time.
Yeah, I don't remember. Huh. That's weird.
Graduating from school?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah. Yeah, that's my, appreciating an animal.
Well, I do that every day.
Well, but like I remember like specific moments with certain animals, like from way long time ago. Like Cash.
I do too.
Yeah.
But I mean, again, like that's a daily occurrence.
Okay.
So
I'll give you that. How about like a specific trip with friends?
I remember lots of trips.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like
That's
there's
like
not one that like totally stands out above all. Don't most people remember trips with friends?
Yeah, I would think so too.
Yeah. I don't
Especially
know.
like that's a special occasion type thing.
Yeah, and that's something that happens like multiple times.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like it's not as.
But maybe like what we were just talking about right now, maybe those trips start to blend together.
Yeah, that's true. That's very true. I was thinking about like Vegas, and Vegas for sure. There's also a lot of alcohol involved.
Sure.
But there's like a lot of, I'm like, what was it, that trip or was it a different trip?
Right.
So,
Were you there or were you there?
yeah.
Getting engaged.
Yeah.
You sound super excited about that one.
I mean, it's like, I don't know. I mean, what? Do you remember getting engaged?
I remember saying no. I do remember that part of it. Okay, how about this one? Accomplishing something you didn't think you could.
Yes.
Finishing the LA Marathon. What was yours?
Solo cross country.
Nice. Yeah. So, I mean, there's more on this list. Like I said, I just picked random ones. Some fun memories.
Yeah.
Some not so fun.
I think we need to come up with our own Ripple list for next week.
Okay. Okay, I need to pick for next time.
All right. Grab the basket.
So while I'm grabbing the basket, there was
Right there.
someone that suggested we add another topic to
You
our
told me
five.
about this. Uh-huh.
They're suggesting like folklore or like fairy tales or
I love it.
and like kind of saying, where it came from. We kind of did that with The Little Mermaid.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which was really cool. Like, taking these Disney or whatever stories and kind of finding where they actually originate from and
what crushing your childhood.
So I think that would be fun. Maybe let's add that in next week because I didn't write it on a piece of paper yet.
Okay.
So maybe you'll pick it next week.
Cool.
All right. So my topic is going to be... All right. Well, until next week, don't forget to be a fountain.
And not a drain.
Bye.
Bye.